What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video where I've got something really cool to bring to you straight from MGW Shifters. Now, this is a new product. It's something that's been done on these cars before, but not to the level that MGW is capable of doing it, in my opinion. My first experience with them and their short shifter was in my 2005 Corvette. I've got one in the Z06 and one in the WS6 behind me now, and I went on their website shopping for one for the new Iroc that I picked up on the channel, and I couldn't find one. I saw that they make them for a T5 Fox body, but it wasn't offered for a T5 and a Camaro Firebird from 82 to 92. So I just asked if they did make it or if it was compatible or what the differences were, and I found a little bit of info online and it sounded like they would work, but they take some modification to go from a Fox body shifter and put it into an F body. So what ended up happening is I shipped them the shifter out of the Iroc-Z you guys have been watching on the channel, and they shipped me back the very first MGW short throw shifter for 82 to 92 Camaros with a T5 transmission. So that's pretty cool. This is going to be something that MGW is going to be offering on their website that you can buy for your car in the near future, if not at the time of this video upload. So if you're interested in improving the driving experience on your stock or modified Camaro or Trans Am or Firebird with a T5 transmission in it, this is going to be a really good driver-oriented upgrade for not a lot of money, and that's why I wanted to do it to this car. If you guys have a nice low mileage vehicle, or if you have one that's modified, it's kind of a driver or whatever it might be, this is going to be a really good upgrade for you guys. If you're used to the normal shifter in these cars, it's like driving a tractor, and this is going to feel more like a bolt-action rifle. So let's take a quick look at it. It's super high quality. Everything seems to be very well made. It's well put together. It's nice and tight. So we'll take a quick look at it, get the shifter out of my car, and install the MGW and go for a ride. So let's take a peek at it. But this is the first of its kind for the F body, equipped with a T5 transmission, and they're going to be manufacturing these based off of this car, which is pretty cool. It's a super nice piece. I've got a black ball on this one. You'll be getting it with a 5-speed shift knob. They have different options for shift knobs and things like that as well. It's adjustable, so you can actually change the shifter angle and things like that, which is pretty cool. But the install is going to be straightforward. We'll hop to pulling this out of the car real quick, taking the center console apart, and when we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and install the new MGW shifter. So here's a view of the stock shifter with a Hurst T-handle. That is actually what came with my car, and normally there'd be a ball shift knob on top of this like many other vehicles, but this one happens to have this. Here's the throw in the stock form. It's pretty long by most standards, but it goes into each gear pretty good. This car seems to be in pretty good shape overall. There's reverse, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. Well, you can see we're canted a little towards the driver. Here's how much it moves. Sorry, I gotta zoom out a little bit. Back into reverse. So it's actually a pretty long throw. I'd liken it to more like driving a truck or a tractor or something like that. And it just doesn't have the same feel that the WS6 or my Z06 has. They're both equipped with MGW short shifters, as was my white C6 Corvette that I had prior on the channel. So I'm gonna zip this shifter out, boxed up, and ship it out, and hopefully we'll get it back in a couple weeks. Alright, so I've got all 4 13mm bolts removed. It looks like there's some blue thread locker or blue RTV, but I'd imagine it's thread locker. Now what I'm going to have to do is try and pop this loose because it should be sealed. I'm going to keep the car in neutral. The emergency brake does hold it, but I'll chock the wheels and everything because it'll be down for a little while. But I will pop this off real quick. We're going to clean it up real good and ship it off to MGW down in Georgia, and we're going to hopefully get this back pretty quick. This is the final step, and then we're going to clean it up and pick up this video whenever I get my shifter back. A quick look in the top of the shifter here, the little nylon cup. See what kind of shape we're in. The little nylon shifter cup seems to be pretty good. You can get a bronze replacement one or even a nylon replacement one, and that could take some of the slop out of your transmission. This is something that you can replace and upgrade, and it's a known wear point, so if you do have a sloppy transmission or anything strange like that, that's probably a good place to start. The fluid looks a little dark, but it's mostly red, so it's pretty good. I'll probably change it when we're all done with this, but I'm going to clean this up, throw the bolts back in here so I don't lose them, and put a bag over this and try and cover it up as good as I can to keep mice out. So looks like they've been in here before. There was some mouse poop on top of this, which is too bad, but if your car isn't all hot glued together, it's going to go pretty quick. So as you can see, I'm doing this right in my driveway, and I would estimate that you could do this portion of it in a matter of 20 to 30 minutes if you just have some basic hand tools and aren't afraid to make a little bit of a mess. So we'll get this cleaned up and shipped out and pick up when we get our parts back. I've got the center console up on the workbench right now, and over the last few days I've actually gone through and removed all of the hot glue that I could get off of this thing. I did do some leather conditioning and clean this boot up so it's nice and pliable again, as well as the lid, so this thing's going to go back into the car as clean as it's ever been. I also went pretty crazy and also let my OCD run wild, and I did wire wheel all of the hardware for it, so it's going to be a really easy reassembly. One thing that I'm going to recommend, when you re-bolt the shifter assembly back to the tail shaft of the transmission, it's definitely recommended to use some blue thread locker on the bolts if you are going to use the rubber gasket. If you're choosing to seal it with RTV in lieu of the gasket, you do not need to thread lock the bolts. Now, when I'm reinstalling this, I'll put a note about torque specs and everything in here, but I'm going to kind of have to go through this as a custom install because there's not really a guide for this shifter in the 3rd gen. It's my first shot at it, so I might have to do some cutting of shift boots and things like that, so we'll see what we end up with, but it shouldn't take too long to get this thing together. I'm going to go drive around for a few days and test it out and see how it feels, and we'll go from there. So I was just guessing that this shift boot, if you take the shifter assembly off of the, I guess the lower base of the shifter, the lower shift boot will actually slide right over it, so it worked out pretty good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this. I've already angled this a little bit to where I think it's going to actually end up in the center console, but it's still kind of a guess. So for now, I'm just going to zip this all back together and start putting together the center console and everything, and we'll see where we got to go from there. Now this actually gave me a position where there's no rubbing with the leather shift boot or anything like that. This is actually just a pretty good centered position in the car. This is adjustable on the main shaft that goes down into the gear selector cup, I guess you could call it. And this is also infinitely adjustable where the shifter arm is. So obviously it's adjusted with these little Allen head bolts down there. They do give you the Allen head tool for it. I have this one pointed kind of at the corner of the front seat, I guess, where this slot is, so there's a good reference point. I did have it a little bit cocked over towards the front of the seat, if that makes any sense, and the leather shift boot was kind of rubbing here a little bit, so I did adjust that last night while I was driving it, but beyond that, I've got no complaints with it. So just wanted to give you guys a quick view of it all set up in the car so you have an idea of what it's going to look like, and you can maybe save a little bit of adjusting and fine-tuning for yourself, but otherwise, this is a very straightforward install. They provide you the tools to set up the shifter in the car, but you do need your own tools to remove the shifter from the car and obviously reset this one, so they're not sending you sockets and everything. But if you have very basic hand tools, you're going to be able to do this in the matter of a couple hours in your car and have a really, really cool shifter in your car and a better driving experience when you're done. So after that, we're going to throw on this threaded nut here, slip the shift boot over it so it sits nice and flush down on this tapered area, then our shift knob, jam them together, and we're all done and ready to go for a ride. Alright, so at this point I'm all done with the reinstallation of the shifter and the center console and everything, and realistically if you were to do this with a car that wasn't all hot glued together, something I didn't anticipate and I've never seen on a car, or third gen or anything for that matter, this whole install from start to finish should take you maybe a couple hours, and you don't have to cut anything, or at least that was in my experience. Now, this little hole was in the center console. I'm probably waller this out to 3/4 of an inch and put a little black hole plug in here. So I'll try and cover that up, but all the threads and things in this particular car seem to be good after reinstalling all those Torx bolts. Radio and HVAC stuff should be fine, and we're pretty much ready to roll. So I'm gonna empty the tools out of the car, and I think we're gonna go for a little bit of a test drive and see how the new shifter feels. But before we go, I'll show you the difference between the original shifter travel distance and this one. It's pretty long by most standards, but it goes into each gear pretty good. This car seems to be in pretty good shape overall. There's reverse, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. So that was the factory shifter, but this one now has the MGW short throw shifter, and right now we're in 1st gear, 2nd gear, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and well, I think I'm locked out of reverse. It's a non-synchronized gear in a T5. So anyways, return to center is really good. Everything feels great in it. So we're pretty much ready to roll. So we'll see you guys on the road. We'll go through the gears a little bit and give you guys a view of kind of what's happening from the driver's seat here. The car will run, I guess. Kind of acted like the choke wasn't opening there, so the car's running a little funny, but it is a temperamental little beast. Shifter seems to aid in heel towing a little bit. Most of that's done in the pedals, but this is a little bit of a shorter throw. It's also more predictable than the stock shifter, so that's kind of nice about it. Feels great, I'll give it that. I drove it quite a bit the night that I got done actually installing it, putting it back together. It's nice and direct going from each gear, upshifting and downshifting. The return to center is really nice. I don't know, there's not too much to say about it, just a good working shifter. I guess in my head, when I'm picturing a 3rd gen with a T5 transmission, I'm picturing something that's going to be a lot of fun to drive and probably not a lot of money to get into, and that's probably why a lot of us are actually buying these cars, and why they're also probably going up in value if I had to guess. Pretty fun to drive, being it does have a 350 in front of the T5. Now, I have an open rear end in this car. I think it's a 323 gear ratio, and it's not exactly going to light the world on fire or do really good burnouts or anything like that, especially with all the stock worn out suspension under it. But honestly, the short shifter makes this thing fun to drive. actually driving with this new MGW short throw shifter, so we'll go back up to the garage and wrap up today's video. We'll see you guys there. So the Iroc-Zs are sort of like a hero car, where what I mean by that is that you probably shouldn't meet your heroes because they don't always live up to what you think they should be in your head, and this shifter on it gets it much closer to what you picture when you go to buy one, and especially when you actually go to drive it. So this is making it feel more like what I would picture it to be, like a I mean, they're sort of race car inspired. It's the whole reason that Irocs are cool, I think. You have the International Race of Champions, obviously. It was a racing series, and now it does feel more like a race car with that little shifter. So the driving experience, in my opinion, is much improved over the stock shifter setup. And sorry for the mess out here. I've got about 12 projects going on right now. But especially over the stock shifter, this is what was in there. The bushings in these do get worn out, so in all fairness, this one does have some years and miles on it, but even for a stock one with low miles, it's going to be a huge improvement, I can guarantee it. You'll notice it, I notice it, it's why I wanted to buy one for that car, and honestly, I think that was the best thing I could do as the first mod to this car, and I think it's the first mod you should really do to any manual transmission car, is make that manual transmission feel right. So, that's about all I got for today's video. I really hope you guys like it. It's pretty cool. I didn't expect that to happen, but it's kind of a neat thing that actually kind of came from you guys watching, and hopefully it's going to be a good fit for stuff that they make. I know there's a big pool of people out there with third gens, and I hope that you guys go and pick one up. Definitely give MGW Shifters a follow on Instagram. If you want more info about any of their products, check out their website. You can give them a call during regular business hours at their office number on the website. Everyone there has been super friendly, and they're just good people to work with. So hope you guys liked today's video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. If you want to, hit that subscribe button so you can get notified when there's new videos. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next video.